Sheila Gunn Reid for Rebel News. I'm here at the United Conservative Party AGM at the Edmonton Expo Centre. Some 4,500 delegates are here to vote on policy resolutions and to support the Premier. Now, this is not the largest United Conservative Party AGM in history. I think the last year's one was 6,000 in Red Deer. And those people came out to give Premier Smith a 92% approval rating in her leadership review. Now, there's no leadership review here, but these people are here to chart the path forward for Alberta. And our friends at the Alberta Prosperity Project are here in force to send a message to the Premier that perhaps the best way forward is not within a united Canada. Now, the Premier has been talking a lot about Alberta's role within a united Canada, and she's getting a message from the crowd. Some of those include boos. Now, I wanted to talk to our friends from the Alberta Prosperity Project about what they think about this AGM and their role within it. Let's hear from them. The Premier sort of downplayed the prospect of separation earlier today in a press conference, but I think the people who support separation versus UCP members, I feel like that Venn diagram is a circle. What do you think?
Well, it certainly is. And as for the Alberta Prosperity's part in this, we're nonpartisan. We don't, we won't tell people who to vote for or who not to vote for. But what we do tell them is what an independent Alberta would offer them. We speak to the benefits and merits of Alberta independence, and also we want to make sure that people know that if we want this to happen, we have to support people who are aligned with those ideas.
As you know, I support a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. I know we might have a bit of a difference of opinion on that, but I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
Yesterday and today have demonstrated that the level of support for independence among the UCP members is profound. The legacy media yesterday was shocked at some of the reactions from almost all the audience. And I think it's an indication that so many Albertans have realized that Canada does not work anymore, and that the future for Alberta and the future for our children is in an independent Alberta. And I think so many independent-minded Conservatives came here today and yesterday to send the message to the Smith government that we support independence, and it's open for the UCP government to be more supportive of independence as well.
I know full well that so many of you here today have been justifiably, like me, frustrated and angry with Ottawa. I get it, trust me, I get it, I hear you. We have been abused and taken for granted repeatedly over the past decades. But my friends, let's not throw in the towel and give up on our country just as the battle has turned in our favor and victory is in sight. It is. It is. Not when our fellow Canadians, even those that may support differing political parties, are nonetheless supporting Alberta's vision for a prosperous, energy-rich nation with strong and sovereign provinces, building a Canada we can be proud of again. Now is not the time to give up the fight. Now is the time to double down and fight for both our province and our country, because we Albertans are indeed the proudest of Canadians.
I wanted Danielle to know, because as we all know, she basically trampled on the free speech rights of her membership at this AGM. She passed a motion at the provincial board level using Rob Smith to break the tie. She split the board, right, and prohibited any debate on independence at the AGM and prohibited any resolutions on independence at the AGM from a policy perspective. So I wanted her, and we know why she did it. She did it so that she didn't have to hear from her base that 95% of the party now favors independence, because she didn't have to admit that she's the leader of an independence party. So that's why she did it. So I thought it was important for her and the cabinet to know that, in fact, the membership is, 95, 80, 95% in favor of independence. And we proved it to them last night. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to prove it. And obviously we proved it last night. So we're very happy that we did that.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey Rapp. I'm from Foothills, Alberta. My question is for everybody in this room. After that so-called MOU was signed yesterday, the ink wasn't dry on the paper, and Mark Carney went out and gleefully announced a 600% increase to the industrial carbon tax in Alberta. My question for the room is, how many of all of us favor a free and independent Alberta?
The Premier earlier this week signed an MOU for the potential of a pipeline going forward. My opinion is we've given up too much for potentially magic beans, in that we're going to pay an enhanced industrial carbon tax for a pipeline that may never be materialized. And the Premier has gotten some boos over that. Now, I don't think they're booing her. I think they're booing the idea that there's any sort of hope that we can work collaboratively with the federal government to get a pipeline done.
Yeah, and it's important to note that at this AGM, when Premier Smith started mentioning how she believes in a united Canada with a strong Alberta, the crowd did boo. And she doesn't get very many boos from the UCP. It's usually cheers, because on the balance of things, she's doing a fantastic job and she's doing things no other premier will do. But in this case, Albertans we're fed up with this. We've gone through this for years. All we have to do is look back in history and see the federal government making all these promises. They don't deliver. They never deliver. And not only that, but this MOU is full of. It's not even promises. It's an agreement to think about making a plan to talk about doing a thing.
Her role is to carry out her legal duties under Alberta law, which is to call for a referendum when she thinks the tests have been met. The Premier is the leader of Alberta, and she needs to respond to the will of the people and the will of the party that elected her. So I'm optimistic that she will continue to try to help Canada work, but I'm also pessimistic that we'll get significant change. It's just not in the interests of those who benefit from this oppressive and dysfunctional relationship we have with Central Canada to change. There's just so much upside for them to keep the status quo, to keep us working hard and under their thumb and sending the results of our hard labor to them to misuse and send for grants around the world to crazy things. And the economic policies are robbing our children of their present and their future. And an increasing number of Albertans have had enough, and I think are going to increasingly call for a referendum, and will vote in favor, and will start the process of becoming an independent country.
In my heart of hearts, I wish she would just come out of the closet and admit that she's going to lead Alberta to independence, that she wants to be the president of a free and independent Alberta. But the problem is, and I don't know whether she's talking out of both sides of her mouth or what the deal is, but she just doesn't have the courage to come forward and say that she supports Alberta independence. And it's really triggering to our movement. It's alienating to 85% of her base, right, who are strongly in favor of independence, and it makes her look completely delusional when she talks about how that stupid deal that she entered into with Mark Carney is somehow good for the province. The Financial Post came out the other day and said that stupid MOU that she entered into is going to add $6 to $10 a barrel to the cost of production for Alberta oil. That's going to shut down the oil patch in Alberta. Who the hell is going to invest here? She thinks it's going to bring in new capital. Who the hell is going to bring in new capital to Alberta when Carney is out in public? The ink isn't even dry on the MOU, bragging about a 600% increase to the industrial carbon tax. People are going to go, that's crazy. Like, we'll go drill in all the new land that Trump has opened up in Alaska. We'll go drill and invest in Texas. We'll go anywhere. But Alberta, we already have the most expensive oil in the world, and we're going to add $10 a barrel to the cost of production. Danielle is delusional if she thinks that's going to bring capital in Alberta.
Sounds like our negotiations as a country with the Americans. We were constantly, we've got an agreement to continue talking.
Yeah, that's right. And so we're gonna talk about these things, but in the meantime, we're paying a carbon tax, which we shouldn't pay in the first place. It's fictional. It doesn't. It's not backed by science. It doesn't belong in Alberta. So just the idea that anyone is celebrating this MOU, to me it doesn't make much sense, because it's a bunch of smoke and mirrors over here, and it's distracting from the real problem, which is the structural situation we're in within Confederation.
One side's given everything up, or a lot, in return for something that might happen in the future largely. There's nothing in the MOU that addresses the cost of living crisis that my children are facing. There's nothing in the MOU that contains in any way the reckless deficit spending that we've never seen in the history of this country, that is going to continue to cause inflation and make life unaffordable. There's nothing in the MOU that deals with this crazy situation we have of mass migration into our country with no capability infrastructure to support the people and the burdens they're placing on the rest of us. There's nothing to do with the core economic issues. There's nothing to do with the crime issues. It's unfortunately, in my view, become a distraction.
So I don't know whether, Danielle was seduced by Mark Carney the same way she was seduced by Jim Prentice into crossing the floor, to the progressive Conservatives. I mean, for the life of me, I can't figure out why she's turned into a federal Liberal. And it's, she, obviously you heard today, her base still love her. And I mean, people still, respect her, and, they gave her a standing ovation, and people really like her. But I think she's really confusing people. And quite frankly, when she talks about people are able to differentiate between Danielle, the person who we all really like, versus Danielle, this person who's getting horrible policy advice and entering into, delusional agreements on behalf of the province of Alberta. We all think that she's just has completely given leave to her senses.
But at its core is tightening the tier system, which is the industrial carbon price system here in Alberta, to a level of at least $130 with a pass price from there. What does that mean? It means more than a 6 times increase in the industrial price of carbon, from its effective level, which is much lower than the headline level, the effective level, to the level that's committed in the agreement. That's the first thing. The second is methane reductions in methane, more than 75% reductions in methane by 2035, that commitment that's there. Thirdly, it creates the conditions for this big investment in the Pathways Project, the largest in the world, which will have huge reductions in emissions, the equivalent of taking more than 90% of the cars and trucks off the roads here in Alberta in the first phase.
The only logical path forward for us, the one that's safest and most prosperous, is for Alberta to become independent. And if we fail to do so, we can all see that Canada is on a fast track to become Venezuela, with inflation, affordability, gutting out the middle class. We need to change course. And I think what's happened here the last few days is it's become clear that so many other Albertans believe that too.
Tell people how they find out more about the Alberta Prosperity Project.
Well, online, www.albertaprosperityproject.com, or attend an event. We're holding events all over the province, and they're very well attended. Nowadays, when I speak at an event, we find that there's usually about 50 to 75% new attendees. So that's really promising. And by the end of the night, when we've delivered our messaging, it's almost 100% conversion rate, because the facts speak for themselves. And the minute people get past the emotional connection they have to the Canadian flag, and they listen to the facts about what an independent Alberta could do for them, it really sells itself.
To see and support all of our coverage from here in Edmonton at the United Conservative Party's annual general meeting, please go to unitedconservatives.ca.